And finally, I think we are now live, which gives us some fun today. Obviously, Google Hangouts decided that we weren't being adventurous enough. You know, you
Yeah.
want to be funny? I'll show you funny. That's
Yeah.
basically what Google has said to us today.
We're taking away your start button.
Yeah. Yeah. Figure this out.
Yeah, hide the start button, the new game from G+. So,
It's gamified.
let me allow my guests to introduce themselves, and I'll quickly get something else set up while I'm doing that.
Ladies first.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, hello, I'm Amy Harrison from harrisonamy.com. So I'm a copywriter, content marketer, and content trainer. And I also am the host and multiple characters of Amy TV, which takes all the principles of content marketing and copywriting, but delivers them in a sketch show comedy format. And I haven't done one for, I think the last one I did was around about the Ice Bucket Challenge, so we're long overdue. There are some more in the pipeline. Yes, I love humor, I love writing, anything to do with compelling content. That's pretty much me.
Great. Chris?
I'm Dr. Christopher Vogelmann of Epic Win Systems, CEO and founder. We deal in gamification platform, which is really an engagement platform to draw customers and clients in, keep their undying loyalty, and increase revenue.
Excellent. And I'm a boring bloke from the UK. If you don't know me by now, you probably don't care to. So that's me, really, in a nutshell. So today we have a topic I love because I absolutely love the ads. And Amy brought us this topic. So I'm going to say to Amy, why don't you introduce it and what stuck with you about it?
Yep. Okay. Brilliant. So the topic that we're looking at is how brands have managed to reinvigorate their not just their image but also their profits and their sales by using humorous and viral videos. And when we were talking about this, the original ones that sprung to my mind were the Old Spice ads, the series of The Man Your Man Could Smell Like, because they were a complete about turn on sort of the previous advertising. It put Old Spice in a totally new light, and it absolutely skyrocketed their sales and their online engagement. And then I was talking to Ammon about this, and he was saying, well, let's look at the GE ads, the latest one with Jeff Goldblum. And it's if you haven't seen it, it's this wonderfully weird advert selling light bulbs with Jeff Goldblum. And there's a similar style with these adverts in that they've got these sort of confident men. They're very, very funny, a little bit wacky. And so we wanted to have a look at these and see, why do they work? What were the effects of them? You know, what sort of things, what sort of lessons can we learn from their successes?
Yeah. There's been, it does seem to be a trend, doesn't it, to have soft sell adverts that kind of take a very different tack on it. And partly I assume that's because we have grown resistant to ads themselves. What used to be virally effective in advertising just isn't anymore. We've built up a resistance.
Yeah, definitely. And there's this, you know, there's this part of there's this region in your brain, and I think it's called Broca's region after the guy who, I don't know, stamped his claim on it. And it's to do with language processing. And I know Chris is nodding. He probably knows. I'm worried now that I've brought this up because I think I'm thinking, oh, he probably actually knows more about it than I do. Don't lie about it, Amy. But this region of your brain, it does exactly that. Like, it loves playful things and it loves new things. And basically, if we see something, if we see a message too many times, this region of your brain goes, you've seen that, you know it, ignore it, because it's not new and it's not fun and it's not interesting. And I think there's so many adverts like that where we just think, same old format, I get it, brand name, you know, different brand name, different product, same setup, I can go about my business. Yeah. Did I get that kind of right, Chris?
Yeah, because, and you're really looking at something that you want that part of your brain to be stimulated by dopamine. You want the surprise, the delight, the excitement.
Yeah.
And so very neurochemical kind of thing.
Yeah, it's that suspense element. Where's this going? that makes us pay so much more attention, and therefore the message goes in deeper.
Yeah, and that's exactly, for me, the Old Spice ads of the man your man could smell like did that perfectly. They were all shot, if you're not familiar with them, they're very, very good looking guy, very nonchalant, smug, very confident, but likable as well. And they're shot in one take, and so they're very quick. And there's lots of things changing and lots of things happening. So I think in one of the adverts he goes from being in a towel, and then the towel's removed and the backdrop fades away, and then he's on a log roll in a lake, and then he's in a boat, and it's all about this. It's sort of watch, because you don't know what's going to happen next. And that momentum in itself, that short, snappy, bite-sized thing, I think has proved very successful in viral ads today.
Yeah. It's what they always call the MTV shots, isn't it? Where everything is cutting and changing very, very quickly. A visual feast that's just slamming into your eyes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's for our ADD culture, and we're just, capturing those eyeballs and capturing people's imaginations is the key.
Yeah, and the other thing that I loved about the Old Spice ads is that I was reading a bit about the agency that did them. And they were saying, I think it got to about 2006, and Old Spice they were sort of struggling with sales, and they wanted a new tact. And the agency said they took a perceived weakness, this 70-year-old brand. How do we turn this into a strength? And then, so they looked at it and they thought, well, this, 70 years of experience, that is someone that can teach you about masculinity and teach you about being a man. And this is why they're so over the top. It's all about, the guy opens, I think, on the first advert with, look at me, and he's talking to the lady as well. This was the other thing, is because they found out that more than half of body wash purchases were made by women. So they wanted an advert that would appeal to women and to men. So so it opens up with, look at me, look at your man, look at me, look at your man, now back to me. Is he as good looking as me? No, he's not. But it's playful and it's fun, and it's basically this guy saying, this is what a man should do, and this is what your man could be like if he uses this body wash.
Right.
Yeah.
The Old Spice.
You've got that added element of playing on male insecurity.
Yeah, I mean, I love the bit. There's one where he says something like, do you want a man who can bake you a gourmet cake in the kitchen of your dreams? And while he's walking through the kitchen, in the kitchen of your dreams that he built with his own hands. And what I love is that it parodies what previous adverts have taken seriously. If you look at body wash adverts, men's toiletries adverts, it's all set up like, these are these amazing men, and this just takes it to the extremes, but we laugh at it. Well, we laugh with it because it's poking fun at itself.
And while we're laughing, our defenses go down too.
Yeah, we're much more receptive to the message because we're not seeing it as a sales message. We're seeing it as an entertainment message, and that was one of the key factors of the advertising agencies, that they were saying, if we're going to do something that's entertaining, we need to entertain the hell out of people, and they did that really well.
They've still got one thing against them, and that I happen to like Old Spice. I like the smell of it.
Oh, my dad is 90 years old. He's used Old Spice for 70 years.
That's the problem. My wife won't let me wear Old Spice because she says, no, that makes you smell like my dad. That's really unattractive.
Who is your daddy?
Yeah. Do you know what I have struggled? Well, I've struggled with that because on the other side is that my dad had this lovely aftershave, and I was like, oh god, that smells amazing, and I was so tempted to buy it for my husband. And I was like, what do you think of this? Gave him a test, and he was like, it smells like your dad, and that would be a bit weird. Like, I'm not sure I want that same kind of trigger going on. It's like, okay, fine.
Daddy's girl.
Yeah, it's like, you can have Fahrenheit then instead.
I must admit, it is, to my mind, one of the best perfume industry ads there has ever been.
Without a doubt.
The only rival to it wasn't actually a perfume ad, it just was a takeoff of it, which was the Boddington's advert years ago, which was done.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, God, those were the so that was for like glitter, wasn't it? Yeah, Melanie Sykes. So Melanie Sykes was this beautiful, she was a model, but had a real broad Manchester accent, and so they would set up all these adverts which started off like, the perfume adverts, the toiletries adverts, and she's this glamorous model.
Pretentious. Do you remember the men with the fish on their heads?
Yes, yeah, really. So nothing makes any sense, but it's all black and white, and there's Melanie Sykes looking gorgeous. And then the punchline would be is that, I mean, this was years ago, but then she would start to speak, or she would basically cut through the pretentiousness of it, say something, and she had this, now then, cut it out, Tarquin. This really sort of bold northern accent that just made you laugh, and it got your attention, and that really appealed to the Boddington's audience of blokes that would laugh at these adverts.
Here in North America, what is Boddington?
Beer.
It's a bitter. Yeah, it's like a beer. A bitter.
Bitter.
But the whole thing was, it was exactly like the Calvin Klein ads, or those very pretentious things that ruin my run up to Christmas every year, with lots of weird black and white images of people doing really stupid things that then sells a perfume I wouldn't dream of touching. But here, all of that, and then this is a good pint at the end, and it was just.
So this isn't the beer that doubles as a perfume, is it?
No.
In some places it does. It depends where you're from.
Let's face it.
Where I grew up, pub.
Beer was an aphrodisiac.
Yeah. Eau de pub.
Eau de pub.
Beer. Is there anything it can't do? Yeah, I'd never seen the perfume industry itself be funny. They've tried at times, at least I hope they tried, with things like high karate, those kind of perfumes where, and Lynx, of course, has tried. Yeah, and
Lynx is very much to that, to me, it's almost like a slightly younger demographic, I think, because, where I grew up, I'm not painting a very good picture, but Lynx is what boys had instead of showers. Teenage lads would wear Lynx and not wash. But I love the accessibility of the Old Spice, because like it said, what it wanted to do, they were saying, is they wanted to promote people talking about the product between men and women. And the other thing that they did, which was really clever, was, I don't know if you saw this, when they did the response campaign. So they actually got the guy from the Old Spice ad, and they monitored all the social media feeds, Twitter, Facebook, and you could ask him any question, and he would do a personal response. And I think they filmed something like 186 videos that got around 65 million views. Now, obviously, it was a massive undertaking, and everyone was very carefully scripted, had to be done very quickly because it was this real-time campaign. But I really liked the element, and it got me thinking, how you could apply that if you had, some sort of humorous element to your own marketing, but allowed that feedback, because it sort of builds that bridge with the people that you're trying to make laugh, and then creates all this lovely user-generated content as well.
Yeah. So, do we think that part of the reason that, in particular, the Old Spice ad is so heavily aimed at the young, with the MTV cuts and the very fast pace, is because the older generation do too much associated with their fathers?
Yeah, I mean, for me, my memory of Old Spice was it was something that was in the back of the cupboard, like not necessarily. Like I don't think my dad wore it, but I think had probably had it bought for him at Christmas and then
my dad
promptly forgotten.
My dad wore it, and he bought it himself, so it was in the front of the medicine cabinet. So.
Yeah.
And I think it was this way to sort of just compete directly with it, almost kill its old image.
Yeah.
Not taking itself too seriously, by taking it to the extreme. And the thing that I love as well is that one of the components that worked really well is that there was usually some element of surprise within the videos. Like what I watched one of the responses, and you know, he's talking about something, and in the one hand he's got this is the Old Spice body wash, and in this hand I'm holding an antique Babylonian scroll, and it catches you off guard, and it's the comedy's so well done because it's so bizarre and yet funny, you know, that it prompts that little laugh out of you, and it takes a risk as well, because some of these ideas, I'm sure, on paper must have just looked bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah, mind you, all comedy is a risk, isn't it? There is an inherent risk in all comedy, whether it's, you know, a stand-up, even with the same material you've run 100 times before. This audience could be different.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I suppose that's because you know, like we were saying with the, you know, we're trying to activate the mind, we're trying to get people's attention, and so one of the ways of doing that is I need to try and do something new. Well, if you're doing something new, that's always a risk, and I suppose we're reluctant to do it because it goes back to, you know, when we were cave people and trying to keep ourselves alive. Do you want to be the first person that goes into the jungle and sees if it's safe, or do you want to sort of, you know, hang back and see who gets eaten, you know? But there's always a payoff. If it works, then you have the potential to go viral and make big splashes.
Yeah, I mean, a sacrificial tribal member is always good.
Yeah, always have one of those handy to taste your meals and just walk in front of you.
Exactly. That's always the advice these days. You know, build your tribe. That's why. Now you understand it. Plenty of people to sacrifice.
Yeah, sacrifice all you want. We'll make more.
Yeah.
So let's look at the Jeff Goldblum ads, because these are, you know, right at the moment, and there's a lot of very similar things. There's that twist, there's that unexpected.
Yeah, and it's so I think, is there just the one out at the moment? I don't know if it's, I've only seen the one. Is there just one? Or is there a number?
I think there are 3. I've seen 2.
Oh, okay, okay. So the one that I've seen is it on the similar lines as the Old Spice ad, but what I love about this, which I think is really fun, is that it's selling a light bulb. So it's not selling like, you know, you can smell, you know, your man can smell like me or whatever. This is a light bulb. This is, you know, your everyday purchase. It's a very, you know, it's so common. But what Jeff Goldblum is saying, and the way that it's set up is really well done, is like, you know, how do you think I've had such a successful life? The answer might surprise you. It's great lighting. And there's this great bit within like the first few seconds where he says, you know, if you don't believe me, and he dims the lighting, and there's a close-up on his face, and it's obviously another actor, but it looks like Jeff Goldblum, all haggard and not as attractive as he is. So that sort of sets the premise of it, is that if you have good lighting, your life will be successful. You will, and he's got like a silk sort of dressing gown on with his face on the back, and he, and it's just, again, it's just that extreme of this weirdly excessive lifestyle that is created by having the right light bulb, and I think the concept of that is very funny, and there's so much potential for comedy there.
Yeah.
You know, buy this light bulb, you'll have a very bright future.
Yeah. Well, and yeah.
One of the things I love, I mean, I love the fact that, you know, you first see him playing the piano, and then it zooms back, and he's in a pool. He's got a piano in his pool.
Yeah, and like you say, and there's room for one more as he's playing his romantic music. And it's the other thing that I like is that the people sort of, he's got some people around him who are very ordinary looking, and he says that you can get successful guy lighting at normal guy pricing, and again, he's got this, it's over the top confident, but it's likable, and it's very charming because it pokes fun at himself. And I think, you know, adverts that take themselves too seriously tend to set up this premise of, if you buy our product, your life will be better. You know, and it's always got, like in perfume adverts, it's beautiful people going to premieres and running with, you know, while they're draped in diamonds, and it's taking that concept and parodying it, and I think that's why people like it, because it's all these things that we've seen for the years and years of advertising, and this is like saying, yeah, we know this is silly, like this is how silly it is. and yet it manages to make sales as well. So there's something very funny about that.
Well, and there's be extreme, be outrageous, and then you'll be able to capture people's attention.
Yeah. But what's really interesting about the Jeff Goldblum ones is it uses archetypes more. It gives us an instant archetype. I mean, he might as well be Hugh Hefner at the start. There is that instant thing with the silk robes, with
bunnies. Where are the bunnies? Yeah.
And of course, we are in a time where there is a backlash against that kind of thing. You know, the 70s and 80s icons. That could have been a serious ad in the 70s, you know, and now it's got completely the opposite effect. And I love that they play with that. And obviously, archetypes are really important sometimes to comedy because it gives the trope, it gives an instant handle. We know what you mean.
Yeah, it gives you a shortcut to the message. You don't have to explain it. You see this guy, you know everything that he stands for. You know, he's a total playboy figure. And one of the things that I noticed that the Old Spice advert does, that the GE adverts, that the light bulb adverts do, is they poke fun at your current life without insulting you. You know, and they're able to do it because of these extreme characters. So they're sort of saying, you know, your boyfriend isn't as good looking as me, but if he wears this, he can smell like me. And Jeff Goldblum saying, you know, your life is probably very ordinary, like these people get great lighting, and you can have a life like me. There's some cases that would just be offensive, you know, and that would insult your audience. But because they do it through these characters, and they're almost like a spokesperson for being outrageous, they get away with it.
Well, and we have a caricature, and the caricature is almost like people who latch onto superheroes. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's almost like you can say anything with this character because you can say, well, I didn't say it. It was my alter ego. I could do with one of those. I'd get out of so much trouble.
The many personas of Amy.
You've got a big enough dressing up wardrobe by now that if you can't get away with it, well, something's wrong.
More wigs. More wigs.
But that's something that you do use in your own humour, isn't it? Is that you need the archetypes. If you want a doctor, it's got to be the white coat, the stethoscope, instantly telling people this is a doctor.
Yeah, and caricatures are a great way of making fun of a persona without without insulting people. So in one of the videos that I did was looking at someone that took with their Twitter account and their content marketing a little too seriously, and so I dress up in a crown and a robe, and I'm very pompous, and I'm talking about my 12 Twitter followers that I have to manage, and I've become very egocentric about my social media following. But it's so funny because I got so many messages from people saying, I know someone just like that. But it works, and it sort of builds up this humor without if I did that realistically, that would seem a little insulting, and I would seem arrogant. But if to do it through a caricature, you've got a lot more scope. You can bend the rules a bit more.
I'm just going to quickly pull up this comment from Griswold, which is absolutely right. They're going for the anti-marketing market. This push back against the archetypes we were given for a long, long time, especially, I'd say even more so with the Old Spice ad, because it really was going completely away from the mould, breaking all of the rules that we know as rules, even though the real rules were in there.
Yeah, and they're going for entertainment marketing. I mean, when would you ever, okay, maybe before the internet, but when would you say, okay, I'd love to just sit down and watch half an hour of adverts? That would be, come on, let's all get together. But if you get together, you would say, have you seen the Old Spice ads? And if you go, you can find video lists of them. I mean, I was watching them and spent a good 20 minutes, and they're brilliant because I would watch them for their content alone. Now, I wouldn't necessarily go out and buy Old Spice, but it did absolutely transform their sales. I think it increased them by about 125%. It just through the roof.
The half hour of ads you just mentioned triggered something in me. In 1967, I was 9 years old in Germany. Before the evening television started, they had a full half hour of commercials with little cartoon characters called Heinzelmännchen. And everybody watched the cartoons and the ads for a full half hour before the evening programming. But they were very engaging for the 1960s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the way it's going. I think that, you know, if you've got something to sell or promote or offer, or if you want people to listen, you've got to look at popular content. You've got to look at, you know, why do people read? Why does everyone flock to? I want to say 50 Shades of Grey. I haven't read it, and maybe that's not the best idea for your marketing. But you know, people will queue around the block for books, to watch films, to read comic books, and I think that you can learn so much from what people actively want to consume as content. And I think that's the way more advertisers are going. You know, how do we create something that people would watch anyway?
Yeah, and it is one of those rare things that it's often only sort of once a year that there is an ad that you actually want to come on. You want to see that ad again. And, you know, the reasons for that can be all kinds. A lot of people felt like that about the Levi's 501 ad with the guy getting undressed in the laundromat to wash his jeans.
Yeah, that was. I mean, the plot, the characters were just amazing for that one. It was really deep.
Women were more looking forward to that ad than the men for some reason.
I think they empathise with the chore of doing the laundry, probably.
That's obviously what it is. Yeah.
You know, they were waiting for shots of detergent, and that's what really got them going. They were looking for the guy who was like, "Get out the way, the washing machine. Put your clothes back on."
I need some suds.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll never come out in a 40-degree wash. You need to boil that stain.
Did they have 40-degree washes back then? I'm not sure they went that low.
I have no idea. I don't even know what. I mean, I just put it on E. We have a setting on our washing machine that's E. I don't even know what it is. It's
everything. It's just everything.
Yeah. I just hope it washes.
Is the next one over by gum? Is it a northern washing machine?
It's a Yorkshire washing machine. Yeah. And everything's in cold water to save money.
Of course, the filter's made of brass.
Yeah, and you're not allowed to heat it up. You just have to put a jumper on it.
Now we've just completely lost everyone outside the UK.
I was going to say, I mean, I'm hearing 40 degrees. I'm thinking Fahrenheit. That's cold water, and then.
That's it. I always forget when like talking to people, and I've got friends in Texas, and they'll say, "Yeah, you know, it reached 100 degrees today." I'm like, "How are you not setting on fire? Like, what? How is this not being reported around the world?"
Your blood must be boiling.
And then I do the switch, and it all makes a bit more sense. Still uncomfortable, but nevertheless.
Yes. We used to have our weather given to us in both temperatures for a while. In the sort of 80s, they'd give you both, and then that just stopped.
Yeah.
Well, in the 70s in the United States, we were switching to metric, and you'd see miles and kilometers, and they were trying to do the Celsius Fahrenheit thing, and that just died. E is for excellent. Okay. Excellent.
Maggie's got the answer for you.
That's it. That must be it. It seems to work. Another, I don't know if you saw these, but another viral video that did really well was the Dollar Shave Club. Have you seen that one?
I've heard of them. I haven't seen them.
So it's a very short advert. It's very similar to the Old Spice in that it's shot in one take, and it is all done to camera with the guy who is the founder of the Dollar Shave Club. So if you're not familiar, Dollar Shave, you pay $1 a month and they post razors to your door. Really simple concept, but the video is what pretty much launched this company overnight. And again, he's very confident, he's very charming, and they wanted the biggest punchline at the start. And what they did with the script is that they sort of had their branding messages, then they built the jokes on top. And I think in the first line, he says like, you can get our blades for $1. Are they any good? No. And then he leaves his office and points to a poster and he says, our blades are beeping with an F, effing great. And there's a big poster on the wall that says this with it beeped out. And that sets the tone because it tells you this is going to be different. This is going to be sort of kind of, a little bit not aggressive, but a bit more masculine than we're sort of expecting from like a soft sell advert. And then it just goes from there. But and again, it pokes fun at, this, like, our desire for shave technology. Like one of the lines he says is, you don't need a vibrating handle and a backlight and 10 blades. It's like your grandfather had one blade and polio. And then it sort of, and then it moves on. And again, it pokes fun at like this concept of what it means to be masculine. And it's like, look, strip away. It's like one of the other things that he says is, stop spending $20 on blades every month. 19 of those goes to Roger Federer. And so again, it's sort of saying you're not spending your money wisely. You're not being a real man. But it's doing it in this, again, it's poking fun at your current lifestyle without insulting you. And that did, like, within 48 hours, they had 12,000 subscribers. And that increased to, I think they had 330,000 subscribers by last year. It was just phenomenal.
Yeah, and of course they've taken a deliberate pot shot at their main competitor with the Federer thing, because of course Gillette always used the sports personalities to advertise their products. And they're saying massively overpriced because all they're doing with it is paying for the celebrities.
Yeah, and it's because he walks along and he says this line, 19 of those dollars goes to Roger Federer, and he says, I can play tennis. Someone gives him a tennis racket, they throw the ball and he completely misses it and then just chucks the racket away. And again, it's poking fun at these serious adverts. And that's, that is a concept that can work really well in your marketing, is look at what other people are doing and not necessarily automatically go against it, but just say, ask yourself, are there things about the advertising of my industry that people are either sick of, or, they don't believe, or, that they find either, pompous or whatever, because that could be a strength for you to use in your advertising to take the alternative view and then completely stand out and sort of mark out this new territory in your own industry.
Well, I know people who deliberately do something like that, not in terms of humor, but they position themselves as a mom and pop small store on the internet, even though they're doing big numbers. And their messaging always is, we're local, we're personal, we'll take good care of you, we treat you like family. But they're doing massive numbers, but they're really pitching it on the small business, help a small business.
Yeah, and it is smart to sort of gauge how your audience feels towards your industry as well. Like that's one of the, I was talking about this on on another hangout. One of a really clever copywriting advert was, it was for plumbers or electricians. I can't remember what it was, and it was a very small advert. And again, knowing that the majority of people that book, or I can't remember when it was, but the majority of people that would book this service would be women in their homes, and they knew that they were frustrated with guys coming around, well, basically the advert said, we will turn up on time smelling nice. And that was it. And it did so well because they'd really tapped into a frustration of women, like, great, another sort of stinking guy coming into my house to fix something, and he's half an hour late. And it did, it did really well for the company. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is those little details that are sometimes so important in marketing generally. Yeah, it's... I remember, back in the heyday of the battles of the internet companies, everyone was competing on free shipping. And my brother-in-law at the time, who bought more CDs and DVDs than anybody I knew, didn't go with any of those companies. He went with one of the most expensive delivery companies because they gave him a 1 hour time slot. They said it would be there in this time and it would arrive within 1 hour. They used couriers.
Wow.
Wow, that's instant gratification.
He owned a chain of stores. If he had to be home to get a delivery, he's losing money. So what he needed was something that could turn up in the lunch break, or that if he has to take an hour, he can book an hour and he knows it's done in an hour and he can get back to work. And
that's so clever because it does two things. It gives control to your customer. It makes them feel like they are, you are really serving them. and I can't remember what the second thing was, but it's really clever. It'll come to me. Oh no, that was it. It tapped into what the customer thought was more valuable, and this, it could be a scary question to ask your customers, but it might be worth doing to say, look, okay, whether you are a copywriter or whether you're a marketer, to say to people, what do you not like about the industry? Like, what puts you off, or what do you not like about engaging with SEO experts? Because it could be something that would be very simple for you to deal with that objection and put yourself forward as someone very different.
Yes, absolutely, and that is coming back again to the core of the code here. The code is to be different, to stand out, and differentiation is always, it's the first thing I look for with any client I ever take on. What's your unique selling position? If you don't have one, we're not going to work together. We're going to need that, because if you don't have something that makes you different, don't think SEO is going to do it. Don't think marketing dollars are going to do it. You've got to have that difference in the first place.
Yeah, and it's exactly the same with copywriting. With copywriting clients, is that sometimes you have to turn people away that think copywriting is going to be the magic button. But you have to have a great product, and you have to have a unique story to tell. Now, that doesn't mean that what you do has to be totally, not to say totally unique, but as in something that no one's ever done before, because I know that a lot of people get hung up on this idea of being unique, thinking, but I'm an accountant, they're an accountant, what am I the accountant that does my taxes on my head? How can I be? And it's not about being different in that way, but having a different story and being distinct and standing out.
Yeah, absolutely. Not following others too closely, and also knowing how everyone else is marketing, and knowing what annoys people about that. What's the mistruth there? It's little things like, there's that wonderful scene in the movie Falling Down where he's in the burger place. What's wrong with this picture? Look, there's your burger up there. It's big, it's fluffy, it looks great. Here's this little flat thing I've got. But we all instantly went, my God, yeah, that's how I feel. Find that thing.
Yeah, and they've done videos of I was watching someone that would go and order fast food, and then would take it back and say that, but this is what it looks like on the picture. Can you make mine look like that? And some of them would say, oh no, that's just the way it is. But again, it sort of highlights, we all understand that, we all know, and yet that advertising, we're so used to it. These big juicy burgers, the toppings that float and sort of are all bouncy, and then you get it and it's all sort of crammed up. I mean, I think the fast food restaurant that can do something with that, in the way that Old Spice has, and if you can manage to turn like squash mushed up fast food into a strength, that's it.
Perfect. A new chain. It'll be called Fluffy Burger.
Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those. I knew somebody years ago who worked in the food photographing industry, and I mean, their makeup artists beat any special effects ones you've ever heard of. The number of times, there's some of these companies, they paint raw food.
Oh my God.
It's painted to look cooked, but it never was. So that it's
I feel so sorry for like the burgers now. I just feel like, just leave me alone. Just how many times are we gonna have to do this? Do I have to jump in the pool again?
Yeah, stop putting lipstick on me.
Yeah. No, so something that I did want to mention is because there's and I recommend if you haven't seen either the Old Spice Dollar Shave or the GE ads, do go and look at them and just try and pick out what it is that's so entertaining, if you like them or if you don't. But there are a couple of, and I'd be curious to see if you've ever seen anything like this, but there are some campaigns that have gone very wrong using Humour. One of the ones that I tend to talk about, it wasn't a video, and it was a few years ago. I think it came out in 2009, and it was by Bacardi. And it was ahead of the summer, and it was selling like whatever their Alka Pops are. So not necessarily the spirit, but like the fruity, fizzy drinks. So their target market is, you know, sort of women, sort of in their 20s, early 30s, and they did a whole campaign. So not just one advert, and it was printed brochures, and it was online interactive adverts. And it talks about, you know, if you want to be popular this summer, if you want to have the best summer ever and be really, you know, get all loads of attention at parties, then the hottest accessory to have this summer is an ugly girlfriend. And they didn't stop there. They developed this campaign. They had models dressed up as, like, you know, as like ugly girls. There was your summer pool party ugly girlfriend, your barbecue, you had a different ugly girlfriend for each one, and it absolutely bombed. And you know that at some point, you know, like, I mean, I don't know, in that room I'm guessing there's some guys going, this is amazing, this is going to be so funny, they'll love it. And it's like, you're appealing to women, and you're telling them to go and get an ugly girlfriend. So they shelved it, but then just recently social media found it again and sort of kicked it all up and got the discussion going. And it's just a great example of what not to do. Like, you might find it funny and we laugh about it, but boy, is that going to insult some people.
Yeah.
That was clearly done by a whole room full of men.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, something they found hilarious while out drinking to celebrate the campaign the night before.
Yeah.
Really didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, you can imagine, like, oh, what they need is like someone who's like not as good looking as them. Like, the ugly girlfriend, that's amazing. This is gonna make us millions. And then they probably promptly got
we're
fired.
gonna create a lot of buzz while we're buzzed.
Yeah.
So, so we've looked at, you know, the risks of funny. And there certainly are, you know, you've got to assume that half your jokes won't work. A lot of comedians, they've got a very fast patter because they can get 3 jokes in fast and you'll laugh at one of them. And what you'll remember is, he was really fast and I laughed.
Yeah, and that's like the momentum with the, when you look at the Dollar Shave, you know, look at these adverts we've talked about, it's the same thing. They are crammed full, with lots of little jokes. So you might not get 1 or 2, but you'll maybe get a 3rd one, and that's what you'll remember. And what's nice about that is, because of the pace and momentum, is that you're more likely to watch it again, and then you might pick up on something else that you missed and that gets you laughing. So it gives them more depth.
Yeah, and it also reminds me sort of the mania of Robin Williams, where he could just go on and on and on and on, and people would pick up on that because they might pick out one little thing of 5 things that he said.
Yeah. Yeah. You've got to be very brave to be a slow comedian. With like just 5 jokes for an hour.
Glacial comedy.
There used to be one who had this really slow, downbeat delivery.
Oh, Stephen Wright.
Exactly. Loved him.
Yeah, Stephen Wright is like, I plan to live forever. So far, so good.
Yeah. And it always struck me that he was either the bravest or the best comedian I'd ever seen, because he had the guts to go very, very slowly.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Now, when humor doesn't go well, I'm thinking of one that's a one-off from many years ago. There was a Super Bowl commercial, and it was talking about herding cats. And you had these cowboys that were running around, and they CGI'd all these cats, and they were everywhere, and they were gathering all the cats together. And it was really funny in terms of a meme, in terms of the visual. It really got people's attention. But nobody ever knew what the brand was. Yeah. It was EDS. It was a software company. But so you had this wonderful, funny thing, but just never connected to the brand.
Yeah, and I think that's something like the Old Spice. You can't not know it's Old Spice. You know, they do it clever because the comedy is so closely connected to the brand. As with the Dollar Shave Club, you know, you remember that name. Now, a video that was done, do you remember the one with Jean-Claude Van Damme, where he's on the 2 trucks and he does the splits? And I think I actually wrote that to Ammon, and I was saying, oh, you know, we could look at this one. And I said, I think that's for, and I was like, is it Honda? Is it Yeah, I couldn't remember the name, and it wasn't. It was for Volvo. I would never in a million years remember that that was for Volvo, but I remember the advert, and that's. I think that's something that you need to bear in mind. Like, you've got to be confident as well to put your brand front and center.
Right, and the concept most people have in their mind of Volvo has been for decades, it's safety.
Yeah.
So doing a split between two Volvos doesn't strike you as really safe or wise.
No, and I think that, you know, if you want, yeah, exactly. Like, it's not in keeping with the brand, but it's also, they don't want to smash that old image. It's not like, well, we want to get rid of our brand of being safe and show that we're now reckless. You know, that wouldn't work very well. Like, the Old Spice wanted to reinvent their image. So I think it's a great advert, but I'm not sure what it did for sales or even for brand recognition.
I always loved, I can't remember the name of the film now, it might have been Crazy People, but it was Dudley Moore in an insane asylum kind of thing. He'd just gone off the rails, he'd got fed up of advertising, and it had him doing ad campaigns from there, and it had Volvo. They're boxy, but they're good. And it stuck with me better than any of their actual ads over the years. And also Porsche. You may not be able to get laid in a Porsche, but you'll get laid the minute you get out. And it was just, you know, yeah, there's a lot of men, that's exactly why they're buying these things. I did love that film, and I did think, why is the advertising industry not taking notice?
Yeah.
It is actually what we do. We take their ads apart. We do take the mickey out of them. There is a version of that Jean-Claude Van Damme one with the president of Ford's face being superimposed into the video, and he's doing the splits between them.
Brilliant. I haven't seen that one. I've seen because did you see the one then it got like, it almost became a meme in itself, that video, and did you see the Chuck Norris one where it's a similar sort of thing, but he's doing it on two planes? Yeah. Which I think is brilliant. Like, I love the Chuck Norris memes. That's a whole other game. Like, they're just brilliant. And then there was an actor who got, I don't know if it was Channing Tatum, but like a very good looking sort of beefy guy, and he got his friends while he was filming, while he was on set, and they had like two crates on wheels, you know, that you would sort of move things around, and he was just stood on them doing his own version, and then absolutely stuffs it and falls off at the end. But, you know, this went on for quite a while, but people weren't talking about the brand. They were talking about, you know, how many different versions of this splits on a, you know, something or other can we do.
Yeah, yeah. Which brings us back to, you know, that thing again. One of the real successes of memes is that you can personally identify with it and adapt it to you. That there is something here that you can make a personal joke about, or that you can apply to yourself personally. That personal connection is so important, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that's why the Old Spice, with their response campaign, because he was giving personal responses to people who were asking him questions, and they were very clever with the way that they did it. So they began with influencers. So he answered like questions by Ellen DeGeneres and Perez Hilton, first of all, to get the buzz about it. But it got that, you know, it gave people that option to think, okay, what can I write to the Old Spice guy, you know, that sort of puts my personality into the brand? And then, you know, how would you feel if you got a response? It would be, you just laugh so much, and then you're going to go and tell your friends about it.
Yeah. And Twitter has made this live humor a lot more important, because some of the things that really do stick with us these days are when the brands can laugh at themselves or tease each other.
Yeah. Yeah, and you see that if there's been a few brands where they've tried to do live Q&A sessions, and the brands that can make fun of themselves and they do that really well, because they can bat off criticism by making a joke out of it. The brands and the businesses, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but they've done it where they've tried to be serious, and they've got absolutely slammed, because people are just very, very funny and can be creatively horrible towards your brand on Twitter. I think like things like McDonald's, they ran like a hashtag campaign that went really bad. Yeah. It was supposed to promote like your McDonald's experiences, and all people did was just write in funny things that were terrible about McDonald's.
Yeah, which it's going to happen. If you take yourself too seriously, you're going to get more and more of it. But one of the things that I noticed in adverts was that these are starting to come in. We do every now and again see a sniping advert at a competitor. Dollar Shave is a subtle version. A much more blatant version was Jaguar's answer to the Mercedes advert. Now,
I've not
Mercedes had
seen
an
that
advert
one.
with a chicken, and he's moving this chicken all over the place, and of course its head is staying still, and you've got this sign, it's moving this chicken. And then there is another version of the ad where the guy walks off with the chicken, suddenly there's this flurry of feathers, and it's just got Jaguar.
Brilliant. That's so clever.
It is absolutely superb. If you search on YouTube for Jaguar's response to Mercedes or something like that, you will find that one. And
I mean, they weren't sacrificing chickens, were they? I mean,
that's what you have to do these days.
Oh, yeah, apparently. Lambs, goats, chickens, whatever it takes to get Google to work.
Yeah.
I think one of the core things there is, be realistic, understand the jokes that your audience are making about you and about your competitors, roll with it, because if you can show that you get it too, that's the ultimate piece of we're like you, we get you, we're tribe.
Yeah, builds empathy, builds rapport, lowers resistance. It shows personality, all of this like, know, trust factor, all these great things that make people feel good about a brand. They're the same things that make us feel good about the people that we hang out with, because these are people who share our jokes, they share our views, and if you can do that, about your own industry, there's huge potential to come up with some marketing that's really different and gets people on board.
Yeah. And that's one of the things, you have that group of friends where one of them's got a nickname that refers to one specific incident, and you all know it, and it identifies your in-group.
What was yours?
I didn't have one, but my God, we had some teachers with one. Yeah, I won't explain to you why one of our teachers was called Woody Allen, but his surname was Allen.
I'm not sure I want to know. I'm hoping he just looked like him.
This was long before Toy Story, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's not the Woody. Okay.
It might have been because he had a peg leg or something like that,
Yeah.
There was a reason. But yeah, humour that identifies with the audience, that has that shared experience thing is so important. We've all had, the ads that are supposed to be aspirational. You're supposed to want to be like this person. So what Old Spice did that was brilliant is they actually took that and turned that into the joke. They were now taking the mickey out of everyone who does inspirational advertising.
Yeah, and I remember, like, as a teenage girl, I used to hate, because I struggled with my skin, like most teenagers do. And so you'd get all these adverts for spot cream and whatever, and these girls would just, wipe this stuff over their face, and it would all disappear. But also, they were all gorgeous girls as well. I was like, okay, I can use that. It's probably going to turn my skin red because I'll be allergic to it. I'm still not going to look like her. I'm still not going to get invited to those parties. Like, it's just some stuff in a bottle, and this has always frustrated me with adverts and made me laugh at adverts. And so it's so nice to see the industries cottoning onto that and taking advantage of it.
Yes. Yes, I love the ones that do the little quirky things, and most especially the ones that do that in a way that takes the mickey out of themselves, that realise, you know what, as marketers, we're a pretty pretentious bunch sometimes. We think that we can just push all these buttons on you every time and you're just going to take it.
Yeah.
The Old Spice ad, to me, is it's almost the same meme as I don't always do whatever it is, but when I do, I don't always wear aftershave, but when I do, I wear Old Spice. It's got that kind of vibe to it, hasn't it? Yeah,
was that and the other one, is it the most interesting man in the world?
Yes.
Love those series of adverts, and again, it's got this very sort of confident but charming man that is poking fun at the idea of masculinity, and it just works really well.
Yeah, his 2 cents worth are actually $32 and change.
Yeah. Well, we are at the top of the hour, and it's one of those things. What I loved is the audience were throwing in their own favourite adverts as well, and
Oh, brilliant! I'm going to go look at them.
We have to see the
this
stream.
is something that's so important. Ads are a topic of conversation. They are something that we share, and ads are, when they're done right, inherently viral because
Yeah.
they are the little nuggets. They're easy to talk about and share.
And they beg parody.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're a contained story. You know, they're these short snippets that have a beginning, middle, and end. And you know, and the great ones really pull you in and leave you, like you say, you want to see them. And so yeah, I love, you know, you start talking about these things and people have a list of, you've got to see this, have you seen that? And it's great that I think that's brilliant that marketers are cottoning on to that and creating entertaining marketing.
Yeah, the one that for me was a miss, didn't absolutely backfire or anything, but it just was a miss, was the response to the Go Compare man, where they decided to get rid of him and had people trying to bump him off, kind of thing.
I missed those, but I mean, yeah. So I mean, in the UK, we have a lot of those with just the insane jingles. There was Go Compare. What was the other one? We Buy Any Car. Yeah, We Buy Any Car. And Confused.com. But they do stick, and they are, you know, so they're supremely annoying to watch. You can't get that brand name out of your head, and so you are, you know, first and foremost in their mind when they come to think of your industry.
Yeah. Well, absolutely enjoyed this, and it is something that, you know, I can talk about ads all day because I actually do enjoy them. I love seeing the creativity that goes into them. I've always loved the way that sometimes the more constricted something is, the more creativity it brings out. Whether that's limericks or haiku poetry, sometimes the real constraints are just what is the gift.
Yeah.
So, what are you up to for the coming week, where people can catch you, or what are you up to in the near future, Amy?
Well, I am I'm a little bit quiet online at the moment because I am putting all my resources into a brand new course. It's called the website is writewithinfluence.com. And it basically takes you through how to write with influence. So it's aimed at persuasive writing for modern marketing, and it's aimed at business owners that have to do their own writing. And it's kind of got two components. So it'll teach you the theory of what makes persuasive writing. You know, how do you start? How do you find what the benefits? What's the value of your offer? Because I think the theory is really important. But I also know that a lot of people also, they want help with templates, they want help with headline templates. So there's a fast track version, so you'll be able to go in there, and if you just need to come up with a really short sales page or a really nice homepage, you know, content, you've got the fast track elements, or you can go through and study the course and really sort of try and master the elements of persuasive writing. So that's going to be launching in the next few weeks, and so I'm rapidly behind the scenes creating the content for that. But I'm really excited about this.
Excellent. Christopher?
Behind the scenes is also my theme, so I've backed off a little bit from social media lately. We're actually working on a gamification course, which is basically game-based marketing, taking the motivational triggers that make games so addictive and layering them into non-game situations. It'll be an online video course with workbooks and a number of different things. So that's being worked on behind the scenes right now, as well as the software platform for Epic Win Systems. And I will likely be relocating from East Coast to West Coast, so that's occupying a lot of my time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I ought to invent something I'm doing behind the scenes now, just not to feel left out. But no, I'll be on Ammon on Sunday, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm getting to really meet somebody very new that I don't know much about their business, and this is going to be exciting for me. Anyway, thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you to my guests, and thanks for sticking with us despite the technical issues. Take care.